Welcome to Bike Week Radio Show.
Powered by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Good morning and welcome into Bike Week Radio Show on San Diego Sports Leader, the Mighty 1090. Thank you guys again for making us part of your Sunday morning routine and tuning in from all across the country through bikeweekradioshow.com and on your handy-dandy Mighty 1090 smartphone app. And I'll tell you what, in studio, everyone looks a little bit more refreshed and recharged. I think that extra hour, we should make that a routine in here. Like, Paul looks good. Paul's usually dragging in here.
I woke up at 5.
Demanding coffee. Paul looks good. Broc Glover, well rested. Does the body good in here.
It's funny how all you have to do is when you're setting your clock back. I thought about that this morning. I just moved the dial over one, pushed the button a couple of times, and next thing you know, I just got an hour of sleep, an extra hour of sleep, and I'm thinking that's pretty easy. I wish I could do that every time.
Does the time automatically change on the flip phone, or did you have to do that manually?
This one is awesome. Actually, it really does. It changes automatically. I just don't know how it knows it.
I know, it's amazing.
It's the smartest
Big
thing.
brother, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, the clocks in studio are still wrong, and they'll probably be wrong by next week, I would guess, too, because I can't figure out how to change these ones. Unless it does it for me nowadays, I can't do it.
Every clock in my house that you have to manually change will be like that for 3 weeks until I get tired of somebody telling me to change them, and then I'll eventually break down.
I was going to say 6 months, and then it'll probably be at the right time again.
No, I can't go that long.
But also in studio joining us, Wayne Boyer, CEO of Motoport. You can check it out at motoport.com. And Wayne, good morning.
Good morning.
And Wayne is the company's based here in San Marcos, and always good to get one of the local guys in studio once again, and a friend of Broc Glover. You guys have a relationship that goes back as well.
Well, if we were a couple weeks ago, we were giving away that original Torsten Hallman poster of the team Torsten Hallman taken back in the early 70s. And Wayne is one of the gentlemen, just a young buck in that photo. He was a early pioneer, one of the local San Diego guys that came up through to join the guys like Marty Smith and Bill Urban and Tommy Croft and all the early guys, Marty Tripe. So it was pretty cool to have him in that photo. And he's here and to talk about his other business, the other side of his life after motocross. And so it's going to be exciting when we get him on here in a little while.
Well, I'll repost that poster on Bike Week Radio Show's Facebook page, as Scott Cox is in Europe right now, and so we're one show host down, but we forge on anyways. But I'll repost that photo so you guys can check it out, because it really is a cool poster.
And this time, can you post the one that actually has Wayne in it? Because I saw the cropped version of it.
Take it up with Scott Cox.
Wayne, you were. I don't know if that was on purpose or what.
Who did he crop? Did he at least crop in on?
Oh, I think Tripes and the Honda guys were in there, and the Cowie guys like Lackey and those guys were in there. But I think Wayne's a little off to the left, and he's cut out. We'll get that fixed.
Well, hey, you have to take it up with Scott Cox. He's across the pond right now, but when he gets back,
he cropped and ran.
Yeah, exactly. But
hope he wiped.
Yikes. Well, let's just jump into it with the news as we reconstruct Paul Carruthers' News Open. Because as of right now...
Nobody knows the news better than Bike Week Radio Show.
This was an age when only men were allowed to read the news.
And only Bike Week Radio Show has the editor of Cycle News.
And in San Diego, one anchor man was more man than the rest.
And now, here's the editor of Cycle News, Paul Carruthers.
Hey, I'm here. We can do the news now. It's all right, everyone. We can do the news. Hold on. Everyone, why are we all standing around? Let's go.
At least for one more week.
I guess
this is the last time we get to leave that in.
Yeah, nobody did the change, I guess, yet. But
the ex-editor of Cycle News Radio.
Yeah, we could use that, I guess. Just
put the word
former X.
You know what, Bobby? You can do that. You're magic on that.
Yeah, the former editor Cycle News.
Anyhow,
we'll get into that.
We do have. Hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
I mean, Friday was your last day. 20. How many was it? 25.
29.
29.
It would have been 30 if I would have made it till June.
Unbelievable. 29 years, editor of Cycle News, working at Cycle News.
Yeah, it was
a new job.
It was kind of emotional there, and I had to clean out my desk and my office on Friday.
I was following your tweets. It was pretty cool. He had some.
It's funny because I mean the
buddy.
more stuff I would dig out, I could have put all of it on Twitter because there's old stuff in there, like media guides from 1985.
And you give me crap about my flip phone, for God's sakes, at least.
Well, I know, but I don't know what it is. I think it's something I got from my dad, but it's like throwing away a book is like sacrilegious. So I have most of the stuff that I have in there is actually books and old media guides and things like that. But I mean, it's kind of cool stuff to have, and maybe one day if I need it, the Craigslist or eBay will get me into retirement by selling old media guides or something. But
Camel Pro Supercross
Right.
Media Guide, 1993.
Well, and that's sort of the nature of the business we all work into is, hey, here's a T-shirt, here's a hat, and just stuff starts piling up everywhere.
Right. I mean, when I had to take all that stuff back to my garage, which is already kind of a mess anyway. But yeah, I'm just unloading all this stuff, and it's like I don't have anywhere to put it,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there was a lot of memories there, and it was kind of tough that last day, but I got through it, and I wrote a column that'll be in Monday's issue. That's kind of like my last column. And Larry Lawrence was nice and wrote an archives. He does the archives section in the back, and he did the entire archive story on me. And so it'll be a cool issue for me to hang on to, at least digitally. I won't be able to actually hang on to it because there's no paper copy. But
and it'll take twice as long when you're packing up to leave because you'll be packing up and then you'll pick up one of those old media guides. You start flipping through it and read it.
Right. Everything I'd pick up, I'd like, and then finally I'm like, I'm not going to get out of here if I keep looking at this stuff. So I just start throwing it in the box.
I wouldn't know anything about that. The only time I've ever lost my jobs, it's usually there's somebody with a badge and a uniform escorting me out of the building.
They take the stuff out for you.
Is that how it goes, Bobby? They just go, here's your stuff.
It's tough to pack up when you're in handcuffs.
Yeah, you swing in, you lock.
Hey, it makes it, it's less stuff to put in your garage.
Right. You clock in, you got your coffee cup, you come around the corner to your cubicle, and it's a guy standing there with a box full of stuff. And said,
I've still got some stuff over there, some riding gear and stuff that I'll slowly. I mean, the office is just down the street, so it's not like they're not locking me out and throwing away the key.
I guarantee the vultures have already picked all that clean by now.
Yeah, I mean, they were fighting over my stapler and tape dispenser and stuff when I was leaving. The monitor was funny because I had a nice big monitor on my desk, and man, that thing got claimed. Like, I think the moment the words came out of my mouth that I was quitting is like the monitor was gone.
Kit Palmer.
Anyhow,
hey, that monitor.
And and Kit's excited. Kit starts Monday. We'll see how Monday goes. He's gonna have his hands full that first day because he's not gonna have a lot of help, but he's gonna. He'll be all right. He'll suck it up and figure it out and get it done. But in the meantime, we do have a little bit of news. Not a whole lot. We were in the back room there prior to coming on air, and they showed the first race of the World Superbike finale, which is in Qatar. Actually, it's the first time the World Superbikes have raced at night. MotoGP races there for their first race of the season, and they've raced under the lights there for quite a few years. But if you happen to watch it, the lights are pretty impressive because it certainly doesn't.
The race is pretty impressive. We're sitting here waiting as soon as the second heat going off in a couple hours.
Yeah, I think 11 o'clock, but anybody who gets the chance to tune in and watch that should, because now they go into that last race with Tom Sykes leading Sylvain Guintoli by only 3 points.
And that happened because Guintoli won the first heat.
Right.
Sykes' teammate, who was supposed to understand that they're both on Kawasaki's.
Loris Baz led most of the race, and he's Tom Sykes' Kawasaki teammate. At the end, Guintoli passed him. And then they held out the pit board for Baz to actually let Sykes go past, and Baz just basically ignored it.
Gave him the French salute finger.
Exactly. So I don't know if he's trying to help his fellow countryman who won the race.
Think what's that going to do for? I mean, the Kawasaki's ultimately like, look, we're trying to win this World Superbike Championship, and so this guy has done everything he can to make sure Kawasaki does not win the championship. I mean, he's not participating at all in the team activities. And what I mean, is he switching teams next year?
Yeah, he's going to MotoGP.
Oh, okay, so it's like he could care less.
It's a big FU, I guess. But then I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me, because you got to also remember that these are your employers up until the day you leave, and they've been your employers. And
checks in the mail,
and
they've paid you
probably fairly well for your work, and there's guys
helped him. If it weren't for that employer of Kawasaki, this guy would not even have the opportunity to be going to MotoGP to make millions of dollars. And
exactly.
So I mean, it's a small industry,
and I think I can. It's like, maybe if you have an opportunity to win the race, I think that's a little different. But what difference is second and third to that guy? It's like, it's not. He wasn't going to win the race. He was going to get second, and he could have slowed down and gotten third, and would have helped his teammate a lot. But anyhow, no matter how you feel about team orders, it's going to make for a thrilling last race here at about 11 a.m. when those two guys go to the line separated by 3 points for a world championship in the last race of the year. So from a spectator standpoint, it can't get any better.
But isn't that why these guys are where they're at? Because they're so competitive.
Well,
and
true.
They don't pull back, and so
And I don't like the whole team orders thing. I think it's but it happens. So it's you can't just ignore it and act like it doesn't happen. I mean, it happened when my dad raced. God knows how many years ago. But now it's just a little more in your face when it's on TV and they're holding the pit board out that basically says let your teammate pass. So
do you think they could spell the words right?
I don't know if he said passed or pass or buy or buy.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't going to bring that up. Why do you bring it up?
Oh, come on, man. I've never heard about it.
Anyhow, that's about it on the racing side of things for today. A few things happened in the news this week. Jeffrey Hurlings, who's a two-time World MX2 motocross champion, signed a contract extension with KTM, so he'll be there through 2017. And he basically has been with them forever. He started his career there as a little kid. I mean, he's still a kid. I think he's 17 or 19 or something. He's pretty young. And I don't know if that means Broc. Obviously, at this point, if you want to be the best motocrosser in the world, most people still think you have to end up here. Is that something you think will happen with him?
No, I mean, there's no question about that in Supercross. Outdoors, that's a good question anymore. It's getting pretty close.
Is he a Supercrosser at all? Or, I mean, I don't even know if he does those international ones at the beginning.
I mean, he's capable of it, but he's not the level he's outdoors. He's truly, honestly, I mean, this is hard to. I mean, he's the most talented rider I've ever seen ride a motorcycle ever in the sand. I've never seen.
So he should maybe move to Glamis.
No, I mean he came from Holland, and he lives close enough to cross the border to ride Lommel and in Belgium, and he's phenomenal, unbelievable how fast he can go on the sand. I mean, Caroli's no joke. I mean, Caroli, even though he's from Italy, has lived in Belgium for 10 years, and he lives in Lommel and rides there 2 or 3 days a week. So he's right there, but. He's 1B, but Jeffrey Hurlings in the sand is beyond description. Unfortunately, in the United States, we don't really have any.
Yeah, I was going to say,
riders.
If he shows up at Glen Helen, where does he finish?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. He's still plenty capable of being a top rider, no question about it. I think if he rode the 250 class, I think he'd win the championship. But I don't think his eyes are ultimately on the 250 championship in our class. Our country, as we all know, the 450 class is the premier class, and that's where he'd probably end up. But.
The other news was that Casey Stoner, as we know, since he's retired, he's been helping Honda test their MotoGP bike.
I thought he'd been helping Ryan Villapoto look at retirement plans.
To help talk him into that apparently. But anyhow, Stoner was back on the bike after a year off. He tested the 2015 MotoGP bike in Motegi in Japan. I think 2 days there, had good weather. Of course, they don't release lap times because, I mean, it probably wouldn't look real good for him when you compare him to Marc Marquez, but at this point in time, why would it? If he's been off the bike for a year, it's almost...
And that's not really his point. His point is to see how the bike handles.
Yeah, and he tried the second day. I think he rode the bike with the Michelin tires, which they're going to use in 2016. So they're getting a jump on that. Colin Edwards has also been testing Michelins, in preparation for the teams going to having Michelin as their spec tire in 2016. So, I'm sure it helps, and he obviously can ride a motorcycle, and I think he likes the opportunity of throwing his leg over one of those bikes. I mean, who wouldn't? He gets a private track for a couple of days to himself, and he gets a MotoGP bike. So there's worse ways to spend a couple of days. So, that was about it on the news front this week. And then. When's Endurocross? That's going to be coming up fairly soon, right?
Yeah, there's the final Enduro Cross is actually in a couple of weeks at Ontario. So any Southern California listeners out there, if you that's probably a great way to spend your Saturday night, and it's a fantastic location, and the track is just, I mean, the race is so much fun. I think it's on November 15th, or it could be the 22nd. Don't get me wrong, because I think I'm going to be in Italy that weekend, so I think it's the 22nd. And it's exciting. It's fun. The races are close. It's all right in front of you, and the bikes are. It's not like it's that loud. It's not like it's that dusty. It's a great place. As Bobby went and saw it for the first time, and you're super close to the action, and it's nonstop excitement. Even if a guy has a 10-second lead, you're never sure if the guy's going to make it in. And I mean, any of the guys that have watched Endurocross live knows that it's not when if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen, when somebody's going to fall or have a tumble or a crash. And so this year has probably been as competitive as it ever has. So it's.
I might have to tell him I'm still the editor of Cycling News so I can get free tickets.
Yeah, exactly. Bobby's got connections, and that's the one Bobby's supposed to do the running race.
That's
November 22nd.
Have you trained at all? Like, have you ran past the refrigerator?
Training is for wussies.
He's all about speed.
Training. Yeah. You know, I'm just pure God-given athleticism and heart. That's what I'm going with.
Well, you heard it here.
Well, also on the hotline, we have Bill Urban calling. Broc Glover tracked him down.
Yeah, one of my legendary, he was one of my heroes growing up and one of the best motocross riders in the early 70s, especially around the Southern California areas. And Bill Urban is calling us. I asked him to call in from Glen Helen. Glen Helen has the World Vet Championships this weekend on the big track, and the CALVMX races are on the REM track next door. It's a nonstop weekend. If you're still not doing anything on a Sunday, you got to think something to do. Boy, run out to Glen Helen and catch the action, because it's going on both sides. You're going to turn one of those bobblehead dolls watching both races. But Bill, are you out there?
Hey, I'm out here, Broc Glover. How you doing?
Good, buddy. So tell us what's going on. First, let's start at the CALVMX and see, normally Frank and the boys, they always honor somebody. I know you've been honored in the past. I know even myself. We have our little coffee mugs with our faces on them. They were handing out as trophies, which is a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff. And last year, this weekend, actually, I was up there. And so tell us who this weekend and who are they honoring up there at the CALVMX track?
Broc, it's a big group of guys from back in the day, late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s. There's about 20 people, and I don't have that list with me, but guys like Jimmy Beecham and they mentioned myself and Gary Denton. They've Dubach's obviously here. They were going to try to bring him over as well. There's a lot of Tim Lundy. That goes on and on, yeah. And
it was like the murderer's row of a typical CMC Sunday. I think I saw Dave Aropkin's name on there, maybe. It was Dave Taylor on there, and just the guys that dominated the CMC Southern California local scene there for years, right?
Yes. It's a lineup. It's just like being on the starting line.
Yeah.
This afternoon, it'll be great. And then, of course, over at the Walk of Fame, they've got Chuck Fietz-Minert.
Fietz-Minert. There's a name from the past. One of our early pioneers of motocross.
Yes, he was. And I remember him vividly because the guy was just a bull on a motorcycle. He rode those big pumpers, and he was strong. He reminds me a lot of John DeSoto, He could put that bike wherever he wanted it and wasn't afraid to win. And I had a little chat with Tom White, and Tom told me he believes he's 83 years old, and he was racing up until just a year and a half ago when he had a little shoulder injury. So that's pretty amazing. So I'm really excited to go talk to Chuck and see how he's doing, and it's a great honor for him here.
Well, awesome. Next time anyone is up to Glen Helen, and myself included, we're going to just take a little stroll down the Walk of Fame there behind the Announcers Tower area. Then we're going to get to see the new Fietz-Minert plaque on the ground there. So that's very, very cool. So are you going to throw your leg over a bike today?
Well, I'm thinking about it. I've got a bunch of people want me to ride, and there's going to be a little time to maybe get 1 or 2 laps of practice in. So I've got to decide what kind of bike to ride here. they're all those old ones, so I know them very well because that's what I grew up on.
Very cool, Bill. All right, well, thanks for calling in, Billy. Bill Urban calling in from Glen Helen up at the it's a vet weekend all around, and there's, it's just you've got the CALVMX on the REM track, you've got the Vet World Championships, which are done on more modern bikes on the big track, but it's just bikes going everywhere, lots of fun camaraderie between the guys that appreciate the heritage of our sport. So appreciate that, Bill, for calling in, and you take care and be safe when you're out there motoing today.
Hey, no problem, Brock. You guys have a good day.
All right,
beautiful
thanks.
Day here, sunny and beautiful.
All right, awesome. Thanks.
Well, that's always nice to talk to Bill there. And coming up next, Wayne Boyer, CEO of Motoport, is in studio. So we're going to talk to Wayne coming up next. But right now, I want to remind you guys, again, one of those helpful riding hints from Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys and Bike Week Radio Show and Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys are partnering up this upcoming Friday, November 7th. We'll be supporting the Injured Warrior Appreciation Project Ride, IWAR Ride, leaving from OC Harley. Registration starts around 7:30 to 9:30.
OC like Orange County?
Orange County.
For you boys that grew up in that, I mean, is that,
yeah.
You got to call it OC, the OC?
Well, just want to shorten it down.
Okay.
The OC.
So for Orange County Harley-Davidson into Camp Pendleton.
Into Camp Pendleton. How cool is that? You get to ride into Camp Pendleton.
We talked about, I think we need to be on that ride. I think all of us, including the past editor of Cycle News for 29 years, Paul Carruthers.
Well, I don't know if he can take off work in his first week, but we'd love to see
I
Paul
know
out
his
there
boss.
too.
I'll give him a call. We'll call Wayne.
There you go.
Okay.
But even if you're not part of the ride, just come hang out at Orange County Harley and have a cup of coffee and wish the riders off properly. So this upcoming Friday, November 7th, come on out Friday morning. Bike Week Radio Show will be there, and come meet the one and only Paul Carruthers. Maybe. But here again is one of those helpful riding hints from Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys.
Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys have been representing riders for decades. And here's Chuck Coro from Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys to provide you with a helpful riding hint.
California has an unusual law. If you don't carry your own liability on the vehicle you're driving at the time of a crash and you are injured, even if the other party's at fault, you cannot collect for general damages, which is sometimes known as pain and suffering damage. This can drastically reduce your recovery, even if the other party's at fault. You will only be able to collect for damages sustained to your property, medical damages, and loss of earnings and other economic damages.
This helpful hint has been brought to you by Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys at 1-800-4BIKERS or online at russbrown.com.
Here's an idea. Bear with me. You could save quite a bit of money just by switching your motorcycle insurance to Geico. Piles of it, in fact. But there may not be a lot of room on your bike for all that extra cash. So I had somewhat of an idea. You could get one of those nifty little sidecars, pile it up with all that money you just saved, and merrily drive on your way. It's just a thought. Just off the top of my head.
Call Geico today for a free motorcycle rate quote. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
Hi, James here from Toyota of Escondido. Guys, if you're into motocross and you want to get your bike out to the track in style, there's only one place to shop, and that's right here at Toyota of Escondido. If you're looking for the 2013 Toyota Tacoma or the Toyota Tundra, Toyota of Escondido has them and many more. The largest selection in San Diego. And before you waste your time anywhere else, looking for some limp lane pickup, stop by or give us a call. Toyota of Escondido. Freeway close where Highway 78 meets Broadway, just east of the 15.
Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys are the real deal. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Their entire practice is dedicated to representing motorcyclists. As riders themselves, they understand why you ride, the issues you face, and the motorcycle culture. For over 30 years, Russ Brown and his partner Chuck Coro have been helping injured motorcyclists and their families get the care and compensation they deserve. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys also created BAM. BAM! A nationwide buddy system of over 2 million riders helping riders in the event of a roadside emergency. BAM offers free legal advice, and thanks to Russ Brown, they have staff on hand to take your call 24/7, 365 days a year.
Imagine a real person answering the phone 24/7.
Just call 1-800-4BIKERS for more information and to get your BAM card today. If you go down, call Russ Brown, 1-800-4BIKERS, and online at russbrown.com.
You're listening to Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Welcome back, Bike Week Radio Show, San Diego sports leader, mighty 1090. Hope everyone had a safe Halloween out there. Did you guys dress up? Broc Glover, do you have a costume? Were you Broc Glover? Were you the golden boy?
I was a tired parent. How was that?
Aren't you that for 365 other days of the year?
Exactly. It'd be 364.
364.
Leap year. But that's new math. I know. It's tough.
I'm not a math guy.
It's, the neighborhood, a lot of people did. I don't know if you noticed, but the adult costume of the year was the SWAT team was the male usually, and or some sort of cop or the jailbait, jail outfit, the striped shirt prisoner. That was we saw about 6 parents wearing the same thing. I'm like, I've only seen 20 parents dressed up, and 6 of them were wearing the same outfit. But that was we had a good time walking around the neighborhood. And
there were no little kids dressed up as Broc Glover this year?
Thank goodness not. One was dressed up as you.
A jockey?
No, he had a cardigan sweater on.
Oh,
it was a little chilly outside.
Well, in studio, Wayne Boyer, CEO of Motoport. You can check out the website at motoport.com. Also, a pretty darn good racer back in his day as well. And so we're going to have to talk about his racing prime. But we'll get into that maybe second segment. But also, good friend of Broc Glover. I believe you guys probably hit the course every now and then together as well.
We haven't, but we sure should, huh?
Absolutely.
It sounds to me like he plays.
Some.
Wayne's playing as much golf as you, Bobby, and you don't even have a job, other than on Sunday morning, of course.
Well,
but no, Wayne, exactly. Wayne Boyer was a local racer around California, and they would run on the national circuit, as we talk about in a little bit here. But Wayne was one of the guys that was tearing up Southern California circuit when I first started riding pro around Carlsbad, Saddleback, and all that, and. Welcome, Wayne. Finally got you in after all these years of bugging you.
Thank you.
So, just a little background, Wayne. Not only did you ride motocross, and if you go to our Facebook Bike Week Radio Show Facebook page, you're going to see the famous Torsten Hallman racing poster, and that was shot. And I'm asking you, Wayne, it was 72 or 3. What year did you know?
Boy, I don't remember. I know it was in Arizona. I remember that.
Yeah, I think Billy Grossi, we had Billy Grossi help us. Billy Grossi actually won one, and this is an absolute by random. Name was drawn. We saw Billy Grossi, like the Billy Grossi, like the guy in the photo. He signed up and called us in, and he was from Santa Cruz, and Billy was, he won one of the posters, and it was fun, so I called him up.
He actually remembered things.
He was. He said it was from, he was actually crystal clear remembered things.
73.
73 at the Inter-Am or Trans Am racer in Phoenix, Arizona. And you're right. So, Wayne, you are, as Bobby could not, as you're sitting next to each other, Bobby could not recognize you because the hairstyles were a little different. But you were in the front row there, I think third from the right side, wearing a CZ jersey. So
yes.
Tell us about your 73 season and riding a CZ back in those days.
Well, I was the lone factory rider for CZ at that time in the United States, and we always got second gear. It was always gear that was handed down from the Europeans, and so I was always riding on old machinery, which wasn't very good.
And so that race, were you riding the international class, the premier class at that point?
Yes.
How old were you in that photo in 73?
I was probably 21, I think.
Yeah, okay. So, and then when I used to see you racer, I mean, you were one of the guys, there was not that many guys making big money racing motocross back in the early 70s. I mean, there were a few guys, Factory Honda, Marty Smith came along, and these guys were starting to get some decent salaries. And but you raced, and you raced races like the Super Bowl of motocross. And to me, when I would go up and watch this was the granddaddy of Supercross, and I get to see all the Marty Tripes, anybody from San Diego. To me, I was a hometown guy. So Wayne Boyer was always one of these guys growing up near the Poway area, right? And it's one of these guys that I always watch. But you also were involved in some business aspect. I remember you were working for the Nobby Shop International right here in Sorrento Valley, and they imported, I think, Renthal handlebars and Dunlop tires, and what else did they sell there when you worked for Allen?
Well, I primarily worked for Carrera Goggles, and I was their world marketing manager for Carrera for 27 years. So that went way back, and it was a lot of fun. I went to Austria a few times, and I signed all the riders with the contracts. I developed the product. I designed some of the tear-offs that they used and patented that. And that went on real well for a long, long time.
Carreras were, come on, Bobby. That's like, I can't even put it in words for you, man. But Carreras were the cool glasses, the cool goggles. They were the brand a lot of the riders were. 27 years. So while you were racing, you were kind of the Carrera guy also on the side. So you'd show up at a race. Would you hand out goggles to people too?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
It is really cool. It's like, oh yeah, Wayne's my buddy, so I get hook him up, get some goggles, and do your stuff. So you grew up here in Southern California, obviously in Poway, right?
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, you have quite a few brothers and sisters, right?
Well, I'm one of 12.
Holy smoly, that's quite a few. And you think you were tired parent on Halloween?
So
where do you fall in the 12?
I'm number 2.
No, that means you have a lot of responsibility. You were basically a parent growing up.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool little story. I was coming back this summer at a race, and I was sitting in one of the Sky Clubs or something, waiting for my layover, and I think the Masters or some big golf tournament was on, so I figured I'm going to watch this. And I sit next to a gentleman, and he was watching it. And we somehow started chatting, and he asked me, what I did, and I asked him what he did. And he worked for a golf company. He was an attorney, and one thing went to, and I said, well, I'm involved in motorcycle racing. And he asked me if I knew of the Boyer family from Poway. And I said, well, the only Boyer family from Poway I'd know would be Wayne Boyer. And he goes, that's what I'm talking about. He's your sister's father-in-law, right? Is
yes.
that how? Yeah. So he was a really nice guy. So it was kind of fun to introduce. And I said, I got to get to talking to Wayne about it. So one thing led to another, and he says to me, I don't know, did you hear about Wayne and they losing their house in the fire? And I said, no, I did not, because we had just finished having those bad fires in May, and I'll let you take it over from here.
Well, we had a 13-year-old girl that we'd pass on the road all the time. We found out later she's the one that started the fire. And my house burned down. It was pretty traumatic because I was right below the home when it caught on fire, and I watched the thing burn to the ground. And it's a pretty considerable loss. We had a 4,000-square-foot home, 3-story home on top of a hill. And right now I'm having a real hard time with my insurance company. They want to pay me $508,000 under the actual value of the home when it burned down. So I'm sure it's going to result in litigation. We're going to have to sue them to get the money.
And my understanding, your home was featured prominently on, easy for me to say with a mouthful, on the news, to where your home was the one that had the vanishing edge pool, and they kept showing it over and over nationally on all the different CNNs. And they show, here's one of the houses in California that burned down, and Wayne's like, don't remind me, right?
Well, we had the news company parked right in our driveway for 3 days after the fire, and we got out there. A friend of mine has an international press pass, and we were able to get out there while everything was still on fire. And I had a big safe that I kept guns and gold and jewelry in. It was on the bottom floor, and national TV shows that standing up in the middle of the house, and I'm thinking, great, everybody's going to be out there getting what's in the safe. So we were able to get out there and open the safe up, but I had about 1,500 rounds of ammo that all went off on the inside, so everything in the safe was completely destroyed.
Oh, my goodness.
Except the gold.
We couldn't find the gold. It actually melted down and was in all the ashes and stuff. We have a bucket of things that we hope the gold is in, but we're not sure.
Do you mind if you give us your address there so we can go up and you got that? Hey, Bobby, you're down. I see you at the beach all the time. That metal finder and the headphones. Come on. Holy crap. I can't. This story gets... Every time I talk to him, his story gets crazier and crazier. So you're still battling. Where are you guys? Are you in a rental house now?
Well, that's been one of the good things is we actually moved into a nice house in San Marcos, and it's a big house with a pool. It's very comfortable, a real private area. So that's been one of the good things. We stayed at my daughter's condo for the first 30 days and then moved into this house.
So it was a brush fire that got your house? Is that what?
Well, it was kind of an interesting story because it started on a valley over the hill from where we lived, and I saw it from my business. So I drove my truck up there and went around the fire trucks and watched it for about 3 hours. And then I thought, well, I should go home and take pictures of everything with my phone just in case. And so I drove over the hill, went down. My phone went dead after about 30 photos. And I walked outside and looked up, and the fire's coming towards me. And before I could even do anything, an older lady, she had to be in her 80s, came down the hill in a little red car completely packed with all her belongings. And she's screaming out the window, "Is this the way I go? Is this the way I go?" And I'm thinking she's going to go down past our house. It turns into dirt. She's going to go the wrong way and get burned to death. So I said, stay there. Follow me down the hill. So I jumped in my truck, went down the hill, showed her how to go out. And I turned around and looked. It was too late. The fire was already getting my home.
That's unbelievable. I know this is Bike Week radio show. We're supposed to be talking motorcycles, but, this is something, it's an unbelievable story. So it engulfed your house. At that point, there's nothing you can do. And
well, the good story was I would have stayed there. I wouldn't have left.
Yeah.
And we have a big pool. I thought, worst case scenario, I'll just jump in the pool.
Yep.
Well, we had a big second-story deck. It wrapped around the whole house. It had a 24 by 36-inch beam with railing on it. And when we went up there after the fire, that beam was right in the middle of the pool, so that probably would have fallen right on me
your
and
head.
killed me, and I would have drowned to death without question. It was, so that lady was, I think, my angel that came in.
She must have been, man. Yeah. Come help me, and I'm going to help you stay alive. That's an unbelievable story. So we're talking to Wayne Boyer. Now let's talk about what really got you in. I mean, Motoport, okay? You've started a motorcycle riding apparel company, and unlike the sexy, I'm going to go after the market that's already saturated, supercross rider, motocross rider, you focused a little differently, and your whole business plan to me is a little bit different. It's just obviously spending all those years as the global marketing manager at Carrera Goggles and Sunglasses, you learned a lot about business, and you were always a business-minded guy. So you start this Motoport, and you decide to focus at what?
Well, when we started in 1988, we were the world's largest motorcycle apparel company with a German partner. And that went on until 94. We were quadrupling in size every year for the first 5 years.
Quadrupling.
It was hard to keep up with it. The bank financing was probably the most difficult thing to keep up with the growth. And then I bought my partner's shares out in 1994, and then we started on our own somewhat. And within the first 6 months, we had a flood in the building. We were putting a roof on our commercial building, and the roof fell in. Everything flooded. The whole building was destroyed. My insurance company tells me that we need to sue the roofer and cancel my insurance policy. So that was a good one.
You're just an insurance guy.
I'm scared of sitting here because I just feel an earthquake coming or something.
How's your insurance policy?
Well, my favorite friends are lawyers and insurance companies.
Exactly.
They're my favorite friends. But to make a long story short, we lost $15.2 million in that one. And then we started from the beginning again pretty much. So, in fact, we were actually in debt when we started over again. And I built it back up again. Since 2005, we've been doing very well. We now have over 150 police departments wearing our gear, and it's doing really, really well. I'm very pleased with the way things have been going. And it's neat because we make the most protective gear in the world. There's nothing that comes close to us. And one of the reasons why I got into that was my background in racing and seeing people get hurt. I had a couple of good friends of mine die. And I think that if they were wearing the proper apparel, they wouldn't have been injured at all. And it's kind of a shock because when we started, I would get gear back that was crashed at 10 miles an hour, and it would actually be ripped apart and melted into the skin. Everything made synthetic today is plastic coated with polyurethane, and it's just very, very poor protection for both street and even off-road riding. Off-road riding, you can get by a little bit, but one of the biggest growing markets that is venture bikes, and we're one of the biggest suppliers of guys that take off and live on their bikes. They go down to Tierra del Fuego and come back, and they can crash in our gear even at high speed and get up and they're fine, no injuries. And that's really fulfilling for me. I average about 5 suits a week that come in that are crashed. And probably 15 people call me on the phone thanking me. Even sometimes their wife or their kids call me thanking me that their dad isn't dead or injured severely, and our suit held up really well.
It's like, Wayne, you saved my ass. Literally. No, you saved my ass. You should see it. So, you guys focus on, let's talk about specifics about your apparel. Your gear, like you talked about, the adventure rider, that is probably the shining light in the motorcycling market, in my opinion, right now. It's the one category that's very much, it's growing. A lot more bikes are being introduced. A lot more people are doing that activity. They can go on multiple day trips on the thing. As you say, some of these people go literally on a year-long trip. You guys focused a lot on Kevlar and flexible fabrics that, as you mentioned, I remember in the early days of motocross, that's what they were concerned about when we went from leather to nylon, when people would get a really bad crash, or if you do fall on the street in nylon, if you do get road rash, that nylon itself can melt into your skin, and it causes a lot of problems with healing. It causes a lot of problem with any skin graft potential. So tell us about your flexible fabrics, your Kevlar, and how you focused on that.
Well, in 1991, I basically patented a few things. One was the denier, which is the thickness of the thread of the material. And we started with the 1,000 denier Cordura, which is 5 times stronger than the typical 500 denier Cordura that most other companies use. And I also patented not using the plastic coating on gear. We were the first ones to do that, and it required a lot of research and a lot of testing. We had materials fraying. That's the reason they put the plastic coating on it, to keep it from fraying. So we had to sew it different, use different heat sealing methods to make the gear. And then we went into a Kevlar blended fabric. So it's a Kevlar thread woven together with a Dynatech, which is similar to Cordura, and Lycra, which stretches. And we make the only synthetic gear that's actually approved for road racing today. And it's been approved since 1988, since we started the company. So that's pretty important in my opinion. All these other people come up and say, well, we're making our gear so strong. And then I say, well, can you race in it? It's always, oh, no, you can't road race, because they know as soon as they fall on the track anywhere, it's going to either, and the correct terminology is your skin actually absorbs the plastic. It doesn't melt into your skin. It doesn't heal. You have to have a skin graft. And we have hundreds of customers come into us that have had permanent skin grafting on their arm or their back, and they want to keep riding, but they don't want to have that skin grafting issue over again. And so we just kept going from there. The police love our gear because they've tried other synthetic gear, and they typically go 3 to 5 months with it because they're riding 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it just starts to fall apart on them. It doesn't hold up. They crash and it disintegrates. We see this quite a bit in the different departments we visit. San Diego PD, which was one of the last holdouts in our county, just got a pan order to us, so they're even going towards it. And it's amazing because they're going from gear that was designed to ride horses in the late 1800s to the most advanced gear that we make, and it's a big change. And they just love it. They're like little kids. I come and visit these guys, and they're getting the gear, and they're all excited, bouncing around. When are you going to get it done? And it's kind of a fun thing to do.
That's very, very cool.
It also allows them to speed around the city a little more.
Yeah, exactly. You just drop your and business-wise, Wayne. So we're speaking to Wayne Boyer here, the CEO, chairman, founder of Motoport. Motoport, not sport. Motoport.
Port, yes.
And absolute protective gear, comfortable protective gear that has true use when you're an adventure rider or even a street rider, as you mentioned. The only nylon material that's allowed to be road raced in. So when you're doing this and you focused your business plan, instead of going, I'm going to spend X amount of money on marketing, advertising, in magazines, blah, 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 you actually don't do a lot of publication advertising, do you?
Well, in fact, the last advertisement we did was a little over 17 years ago. We stayed really busy without any advertising. In fact,
no wonder I didn't make any money.
And it's interesting because I've known Wayne for most of my entire life. And like you said, and I know you've owned this company and you're involved in this protective gear. It's just not a brand. I don't spend a lot of my life in the adventure world or in that but if you go just on the internet or you start following it has not a cult following, it's not the right term, it has a loyal customer base and a loyal following, and it's a lot of word of mouth, and it's like you said, you've had a super successful business, and it's just people telling other people, hey, this stuff is the stuff you need to buy.
Well, it was tough because when we started, just about 90% of our inventory was made in the Pacific Rim, and a few small companies in Europe made some of the boots, but that was it. So to make things here in this country was very difficult. We started out with making our Kevlar apparel actually in Finland. And I would go over to Finland and I would try to do this and this and this, and they would say, okay. And then 6 months later I would see it. And then they would take a spool of thread off the rack when they're building the suit. They'd run out of the thread that I wanted, and they'd put it in the suit. And then we had a guy high side in Atlanta at 120, hit his elbow, shattered his elbow, and he had defective thread in that suit. The suit actually held up, but they were showing the thread being weak. So I decided I can't keep doing it this way. I've got to bring production into the States where I can control it better. And everybody told me, no, you can't do that. Nothing's made here anymore. But I made the effort, continued, and we still build everything here now in the U.S.
And your manufacturing facility, is it here in San Diego? Or?
It's right in San Marcos at our company.
That's fantastic. So American-made, dig this, more of a reason to go to check out Motoport. American-made, state-of-the-art, only stuff that's available that's nylon that you can actually road race in, so you don't have to worry about the nylon embedding itself into your skin.
He had me at skin not melting into.
Yeah. Well, your skin not absorbing the
that.
Nylon. I mean, it's some serious stuff, and you have fantastic gear. And I actually, for the fun of it, when we kept trying. We've been trying to get Wayne on for a while.
Yeah.
So we finally get him on. And I go online and I see where a guy buys your suit. He goes, I bought the suit when I weighed 200 pounds. I'm almost 300 now, and it's still thank goodness it's flexible enough, and I can still fit in it. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Very cool. If you have any questions for Wayne, one last segment coming your way. You can feel free to call us at 877-792-1090 or 858-457-1090, or submit your questions through the Bike Week Radio Show Facebook page. More with Wayne Boyer coming up next right here on San Diego Sports Leader, Mighty 1090.
Here's an idea. Bear with me. You could save quite a bit of money just by switching your motorcycle insurance to Geico. Piles of it, in fact. But there may not be a lot of room on your bike for all that extra cash. So I had somewhat of an idea. You could get one of those nifty little sidecars, pile it up with all that money you just saved, and merrily drive on your way. It's just a thought. Just off the top of my head.
Call Geico today for a free motorcycle rate quote. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance.
For 46 years, Costa Mesa Speedway has been the most exciting, colorful, and unpredictable live-action show ever. From the comfort of grandstand seating, your friends and family will witness top professional speedway motorcycle racing, insane two-man sidecar teams, Harley hardcores, freestyle motocross, and much more. Check out their entire schedule at CostaMesaSpeedway.net. Costa Mesa Speedway on the Orange County Fairgrounds Saturday nights. Don't miss it. CostaMesaSpeedway.net. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys are the real deal. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Their entire practice is dedicated to representing motorcyclists. As riders themselves, they understand why you ride, the issues you face, and the motorcycle culture. For over 30 years, Russ Brown and his partner Chuck Coro have been helping injured motorcyclists and their families get the care and compensation they deserve. Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys also created BAM. BAM! A nationwide buddy system of over 2 million riders helping riders in the event of a roadside emergency. BAM offers free legal advice, and thanks to Russ Brown, they have staff on hand to take your call 24/7, 365 days a year.
Imagine a real person answering the phone 24/7.
Just call 1-800-4BIKERS for more information and to get your BAM card today. If you go down, call Russ Brown. 1-800-4BIKERS and online at russbrown.com.
Hi, James here from Toyota of Escondido. Guys, if you're hearing this commercial, that means you are into powerful machines that go fast and are durable. Toyota of Escondido has the biggest selection in San Diego of Toyota Tacomas and Toyota Tundras. Whether for work or play, we can customize the truck of your choice into the truck of your dreams. Don't waste time anywhere else. Stop by or give us a call. Toyota of Escondido. Freeway close where Highway 78 meets Broadway, just east of the 15.
You're listening to Bike Week Radio Show with Bobby Wooldridge, Broc Glover, and Paul Carruthers on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Welcome back, Bike Week Radio Show, San Diego sports leader, the mighty 1090. Final segment of the program. If you've missed any of today's show, no problem. Just head to bikeweekradioshow.com, check out the podcast, or also available on iTunes. And in studio right now, Wayne Boyer, CEO of Motoport, not Motosport, motoport.com, if you want to check out the website. And are you part of the design process? I mean, how involved are you in not just the functionality, but also the look of it and everything?
Well, we have my production manager's been with me now for 20 years, and she helps a lot, but I'm the main designer of the gear right now.
And was that something you were always passionate about when you were younger? Can you draw? Can you be the fashion part of it?
Well, I worked for U.S. Suzuki as I not only ran the motocross school, but as a technician, because I have a lot of background in designing products. I have patents and the things that go way back.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a segment I was going to bring up here. So after you were racing and doing it on your own. But kind of while you were doing it, you also went to work. The Suzuki had a motocross school here in town. Years and years ago, it started with Rolf Tiblin and the Husqvarna school. Then it migrated over. Suzuki kind of took it over, and it was based in Carlsbad Raceway. And then Mark Blackwell, Hall of Fame, he's gone on to many, many things in our industry. Mark Blackwell was 71 national champion too, but he taught for a while, and then I think for a while you were one of his instructors.
Correct, yes.
Under Mark Blackwell. Then when Mark moved on, and you took over the whole Suzuki school.
Yes.
So you ran the Suzuki Motocross School for how many years?
For 8 years.
8 years. So he was one of the the man in charge there for years and years. You had a lot of balls up in the air there when you were doing that, and like you say, designing, working with Carrera. I mean, you had a lot of things going on.
I did. I was also racing in Europe at the time too, flying back and forth. So it was a great gig because at Carlsbad School, I had keys to the gate, so I could go in and out any time. We had a big trailer out there. We got 150 new motorcycles every 6 months.
Wow.
I had 3 full-time mechanics.
This was the golden years of motocross,
it
you
was
guys.
great.
Seriously, bikes were I don't know, they're $1,000 or something back then, and there was just stuff was more readily available. It wasn't. It was fun.
A lot more places to ride too.
Yeah, absolutely, as you knew growing up. So I guess I don't want to call it chaotic, but your life was a little chaotic in some ways. I'm sure it was managed chaos. But growing up with 11 other siblings in the household, you're probably used to having a little chaos in your life, huh?
Well, my main income actually came from real estate. I got into real estate. I was actually a developer, and that's where my main income would come from. But things like the Suzuki School and the other companies I worked with were always helped to make the payments that were real high that I had to make. So it got me through, and it worked out real well.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so after the Suzuki School, then it got you where you could ride and practice and keep your skills sharp on the motorcycle, and then you had your other business ventures, like you said, on the side. So what then right after the Suzuki School shut down and you went on, what was your next adventure? What did you do after?
Well, I took about a year and a half off to build my home, and during that time, though, I still worked with 4 companies that I represented, not only with the contracts with the riders, but also developing the products. And then I was the world manager for M. Robert, which also was the world's largest motorcycle off-road motocross company for quite a while. And that's how I bumped into the world manager of Motoport. I met him at a dealer show in Cincinnati, and that was in 1988. And then he invited me to come visit the company in Germany. And at that time, I was actually exporting cars to Germany just for a fun thing to do because I'd ship the cars over there. Usually it was Cadillacs or Corvettes that were still real clean and no rust. And I would drive the cars in Europe for a little bit, sell them, and come back and pay for my whole trip and have a good time. And this guy, I stopped there in Germany and visited the company, and they showed me the company. It was very promising. I flew over to England with them, and they showed me the English market that they just started out in, and I was very impressed and decided to become a partner with them.
And so the M. Robert company you were working with too. They back then they were. I think Jobé was one of their premier riders, and some of the George Jobé, a world champion, they're multi-time world champion. So they were, like you mentioned, they were a big company and selling lots of off-road apparel. So obviously you've been involved in motorcycle apparel, clothing your whole life, so it's natural. Kind of that Motoport was just a natural transition for you, I take it.
Yes.
Very good.
And we do have a question coming in through the Bike Week Radio Show Facebook page. Cliff here in San Diego wants to know if any chance your gear can switch over to the NFL, and says reduce concussions, but obviously that's more helmets. But just injuries in general, is there anything that have you guys thought of doing crossover besides just motorcycles?
No, we've had some interest in, it's kind of funny, for boot covers for FJs. We started doing some Kevlar boot covers because those would lose the oil when they'd hit a stick and fail very easily. We were doing that. We were doing other things like bags for casinos, for carrying change at casinos. So we've had a lot of things, different things.
Kevlar.
Out of Kevlar.
So somebody tries to rob the guy running out with the Brinks truck, and you got a Kevlar bag. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty. I mean, that's something I wouldn't have thought of. But if you figured out how to use Kevlar and cloth together, I mean,
it would make it easier for you to get your nickels out when you leave.
Well, it'd help me in all the street fights I get in, bar fights on the weekends. But.
That's right, Kevlar protection.
Well, that's unfortunately all the time we have here.
But it was fun. I tell you, I knew him. Glad you finally came in, Mr. Boyer. Here.
Thank you.
Wayne Boyer from Motoport. I mean, been around motorcycling his entire life. He could write a book of all those stories and all the different ventures he's had in his career. But it's very interesting, and all we can say from our good luck with your house there and fighting the insurance companies, and hopefully you get it all straightened out. That's a tragedy nobody wants to go through, and you've had a few of these battles.
Thank you.
Thanks.
But and also, I'm keeping jobs right here in San Diego. Wayne Boyer for mayor. Wayne Boyer. You know, let's put somebody else in charge of the Empire and put him in office.
Yeah, built U.S. made, San Diego made, born and raised right here in San Diego. So if you're in the market for some good adventure clothing, motoport.com, right?
Yes, thank you.
There it is. Well, fellas, great work. Paul, good luck in your new job next Monday.
Yeah, hopefully.
This Monday right here.
Hopefully I'm still smiling when I come back next week.
All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned. Craig Elston's coming up next right here on San Diego Sports Leader Mighty 1090.
You've been listening to Bike Week Radio Show.
Powered by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Join us next week for more Bike Week Radio Show.